place that lets you know you're not the only nerdy true believer who's around. The comic book store, 'cause that's where the books live, but it's also much more. It's the heart of the art form that we all adore. Your friendly neighborhood comic book store. Out among the stacks of new releases, browsing with your future new best friends. You're gonna find a book you'll love to pieces. The girl behind the counter recommends dollar books and shelves of graphic novels. Titles old and new, you'll find them all. With action figures, board games, toys, and models to add to your new Comic Wednesday haul. The comic book store, 'cause that's where the books live, but it's also much more. It's the heart of the art form that we all adore. Your friendly neighborhood comic book store.
Good evening, everybody. It is I, your mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich, and this is Source Material Live. Yay! We are looking at another modern, very recently released comic book storyline called Batman 3 Jokers Meet the My Little Ponies. No, sorry, scratch that last part. Just Batman 3 Jokers Meet the
Police will
Transformers.
never let you leave, Mark. You will never escape them.
Yes, Batman 3 Jokers, which was published by DC Comics and is the spiritual successor to Batman A Death in the Family and Batman The Killing Joke. It was a 3-issue limited series written by Jeff Johns and illustrated by Jason Fabok and Brad Anderson, which began earlier this year and concluded, I believe, on October 2020. And joining me tonight to talk Batman 3 Jokers, riding in on her Pegasi, is Alexis Hejna from Honeysuckle Rose Creations. Giddy up. How are you?
Pegasi, bitch, please. I'd be riding in on an alicorn. Get your fictional characters right.
Is that like an alligator that's like eating corn on the cob? You don't seem like a swamp gal.
Okay, firstly, go sit in the corner. Secondly, an alicorn is a Pegasi with a unicorn's horn. It basically means it's a combination of all the ponies. So when you saw, like, the princesses, they were alicorns.
I'm sorry, I wasn't listening. All I can picture you now is riding on the back of one of those swamp boats with alligators as skis, and like in a big like floppy sun hat. And I can't get this picture out of my head. This is the podcast now, unfortunately. You've lost me. I'm now only picturing Alexis, sun hat, alligator skis, swamp boat. Chris Sheehan, help me. I'm dying over here.
Hey, how are you? I'm so excited. It's finally 2017 and Batman 3 Jokers is out.
We're not going back in time because that means we're going to have to do 2020 over again in 3 years.
Maybe with a different running start, we'll do it differently. But this is the oft delayed. I think the delays were part of the fun for this one because every time we got excited about doing this one, how many times has this been on the schedule, Mark?
Gosh. I mean, I don't even remember.
3, 4?
At least. I don't even remember. This started because we did Dark Side War, which longtime fans of Source Material and Source Material Live know that is an ongoing reference to anything that we don't understand or is overly complicated or is just mad stupid.
Or just loved it.
Yeah, right? Good old baby Darkseid. But we referenced Darkseid War for those reasons, but out of Darkseid War was this bit where Batman sat in the Mobius chair. Chris, you being the DC expert on things, and I don't think Alexis read the Darkseid War. Explain in 50 words or less what the Mobius chair is.
It's basically whatever the writer needs it to be. It could be the most advantageous item on the planet or in the galaxy. it's sort of like the chair of knowledge, the seat of knowledge. So in Darkseid War, you have Batman plop himself down, and starts asking questions. And he is shocked when he doesn't share the answer he gets about the Joker, but he is shocked by the revelation that he does not share with us until about a year later in DC Universe Rebirth, which didn't get touched on again for another 4 years with this. So it's been a long and winding path.
I know a little bit about the Mobius Chair because I'm familiar with Metron, the new god. The Mobius Chair is, in and of itself, just kind of it's a TARDIS.
Okay. So
I mean, it's a space dimensional vehicle that goes wherever the user wants it to go, and it handles anything the user needs it to handle. So, yeah, TARDIS.
Terrific. Well, when Batman, as Chris talked about, the first thing he asked the chair, just to kind of test it out, see if it's full of shit or not, is who killed my parents? And, of course, the answer is Joe Chill. And he was like, oh, well, I'm going to take advantage of the Mobius chair while I'm still sitting in it. And he asked the chair, what is the Joker's real name? And then, as Chris said, a year later when he's talking to Hal Jordan, he tells Hal the chair told him there have actually been 3 Jokers. Dun, dun, dun. And so this ostensibly is, or at least what I thought, and we need to kind of talk about this for a minute. When they announced that they were going to do a 3 Jokers story, the impression I got, Chris, was that this was going to be more of a longitudinal tale of how over the course of, say, 40, 50 years, there have been 3 Jokers. There was, theoretically, a Joker from the Silver Age of the silly Joker. You know, the robbing banks and pulling pranks. That Joker. Then there's the Joker from the Death in the Family and the Killing Joke Joker. And then there was this more modern, cutting people's faces off. You know what story I'm referencing?
Cutting his own face off.
Cutting his own face off like you do. I mean, who hasn't, right, Alexis?
Sure.
You know, I last year I cut my face off and gave it to my wife as a Christmas present. She was not impressed.
Last Christmas, I gave you my face. But the next day, you called the men in white coats.
So there were 3 Jokers, yeah? And then what we got was something very, very different. It's a contemporaneous tale about 3 different Jokers who may or may not represent those times that I just said, and they go on a caper. Chris?
Yes.
Let me let you weigh in here. Darkseid War, Mobius Chair, 3 Jokers. We're going to go ahead and do this. We're DC Comics, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to do 3 Jokers. And you thought what exactly?
I was very excited. Because this came out of the Revelation and Rebirth, which was all about making it so everything in the DC Universe mattered. That was what I was waiting for the entire duration of the ridiculous New 52, where nothing mattered. Suddenly we were being told, hey, all that history you loved and you hated, it's all back. Everything here is on the table. And so what I saw, when I saw these 3 Jokers, I saw the Steve Englehart from the Bronze Age with the laughing fish and stuff, or the Bronze Age era. Then, of course, the 80s with Death in a Family and Killing Joke. And then the more recent Joker, the more contemporary Joker. That's what I thought I saw out of those 3. And I thought that this was going to be more of a multiversal sort of a thing, trying to make everything fit. It's like, well, this Joker wouldn't act that way. Well, here's why it worked, because it was a different one. You know, I thought it was going to be more of these are Jokers from different times, different places, just all throughout history. And since we had Dr. Manhattan as the mastermind of the New 52 and breaking everything down, that maybe somehow he got split. You know, that was like kind of the whole gimmick, is Dr. Manhattan was taking things that didn't fit and putting them aside, like Wally West was taken out because he didn't fit Donna Troy was taken out because she didn't fit. That's the retcon. That's what that was the fix. So I thought maybe they were trying to fix the Joker.
Was that Doomsday Clock?
That led to Doomsday.
Okay.
Because that's another Jeff Johns joint that was announced and never came out until it finally did. That was a 12-issue story that I think took like 3 years to tell.
Yeah, we talked about that. We talked about that on source material, and that was another one that gave me a nosebleed and did not stick the landing.
I loved the first 9 issues of it. I thought it was a wonderful love letter to the DC Universe and to fans of all generations. And then they kind of crapped the bed. Yeah. So, because a lot of the stuff behind the scenes, Jeff Johns, I guess he wasn't prioritizing comic books anymore, and he was no longer the chief creative officer. So it's like he really didn't have much of a dog in the fight at the end of it. It was just like, and it took so long to come out. They were actually contradicting it before it finished. They had to kill because they wanted to bring back the Legion, but Jeff Johns had a Saturn Girl in his Doomsday Clock that they had to wipe out so they can make way for the new Legion. He was bringing back the Justice Society, but then they wanted to bring back the Justice Society in Justice League, so they did that. And then the Justice Society in Doomsday Clock was kind of just shunted. It was a disaster, a logistical nightmare, and a scheduling pant load, I guess. It just wasn't good the way it all came out.
I just don't understand why this company might be folding in the very near future. They seem well run.
Idea.
No, I mean, it's them and the WWE, neck and fucking neck, in terms of how well and what a well-oiled machine they are, and really how they service the fans.
Yeah. The thing with DC is, you know the guy wearing the Batman suit? They don't give a shit about him. They care about the bat inside the yellow oval, because they can put that on anything they want and sell thousands and thousands of things. They don't care who's wearing the Superman cape. They just like that S in the shield. They don't care who's wielding a Green Lantern ring. They just like that lantern inside the circle. It's all about branding with DC now. This is stories are secondary. I mean, the story we're going to read today is under their black label. So who could say whether or not it even matters?
Right.
Is it in continuity? Is it not in continuity? Is there continuity anymore? Nobody's saying. Nobody's saying, because they don't want to scare off the people who don't want continuity, and at the same time, they don't want to piss off the people who do.
There was less confusion trying to edit the Bible than there has been trying to figure out what is continuity in DC.
Oh, no doubt.
Hey, for all you religious history buffs, that one's for you. All right.
Theologians.
Alexis, how much did you know about I mean, I know you're on the show, you're a fan of the Batman comics, you were on the Dark Victory show, I've had you on for a couple of different things related to Batman. What did you know about Three Jokers going into this, and what was your expectation, if any?
After what you guys were just talking about, I don't really know what else I can add. No, I did not know anything about Three Jokers going into it. It was advertised very heavily at the local comic book shop. I was intrigued. I remember looking at the issues and thinking to myself, wow, somebody really liked that fan art of Willem Dafoe as the Joker. But, no, I did not know anything about, sitting in the chair and finding out there were three Jokers. I agree with what Chris was saying. I thought this was going to be multi-dimensional. Again, I've never really gone into the whole, well, one Joker does this, one Joker does that, because obviously you have different writers, you have different storylines. I have never really gone into the whole, this is canon, that's canon, or whatever, in a lot of comic book storylines, because I know that once you get new writers, everything is going to get thrown out the window anyway. So I just never. So yeah, I know that there are different Jokers who do different things, and I just looked at it and said, "Yep, different writers."
All right, so our story begins, and it begins kind of weird. Like the story does a lot of zigzagging, but Batman crashes his Batmobile over the Thomas Wayne tombstone. He is all messed up. Turns out he was stabbed in the chest by the Penguin with his umbrella, and Alfred, who died in, what was it, City of Bane?
Yeah.
Okay. Is alive and able to stitch up Batman. So who the hell knows
But wait
when
a second.
this is taking place?
Before we go any further,
Yes.
here, I gotta know, was there any sort of like childhood trauma that caused Bruce Wayne to become Batman? Was something like that? Did something like I'm like picturing pearls? Did something happen about that? Because that's in every goddamn Batman story. We get it. We don't need 8 pages dedicated to the damn Zorro scene. We don't need it.
I do really like this series of panels where it looks at his different scars and you see the different villains and how they created each one of them. I was back to a conversation I remember having with my friends. I had to rush a guy friend of mine to the hospital some time ago. Poor guy, he slipped and gashed his freaking arm open. So I was the only one on hand who could take him to the hospital. And as they were stapling him up, they were talking about how it was going to scar. And he and I just started talking about how cool it was. We're like, yeah, you want serious scars. You want your body to tell us. You know, when we start joking, you know, kind of a bit of an homage to that scene in Jaws when there were times like, you know, I got that bee and they're pulling out different scars. Like, yeah, that's actually what you want. You want to be old and pointing out, it's like, your battle damage, essentially. You know, not boo-boos, battle damage.
And you're absolutely right. They show a couple of different panels. They show the infamous Bane breaking his back. They show the Penguin stabbing him. And they show that a number of the scars that he has are from the Joker. All those memories about pain make Bruce go to that scene, the moment of redefinition, the shooting of his parents by Joe Chill that Chris just referenced. The voice of Alfred in the news telling about Joker killing the last members of the Moxon crime family. Bruce wakes up from his thinking and he must head out to find the Clown Prince of Crime. Barbara Gordon, who is, in this iteration, a walking, talking, crime-fighting Batgirl, is on a treadmill, and she's remembering what happened to her in The Killing Joke by the Joker, and she breaks the treadmill by running too fast. And while she's in the shower, she kind of goes over the bullet wound from The Killing Joke. And we shift over to Red Hood, who is mauling thugs related to the Joker in a graveyard, and he's not getting any information from them. He just wanted to throw somebody a good beating. And he remembers when the Joker cracked open his skull with a crowbar and blew him up in a warehouse, from which everyone thought he was dead. Certainly the people who called DC and said, kill the bastard, thought he was dead. And then, was Under the Red Hood is where he comes back to life?
Yeah, it's like alluded to during Hush, but then it's Under the Red Hood.
Okay. I know I saw the animated Under the Red Hood, which is fantastic, by the way, if you ever get a chance to watch it. But I've never, and we might do it one day on source material, I've never had an opportunity to read the actual storyline Under the Red Hood. I've heard it's one of the, it's one of the great Batman stories.
It's by Judd Winnick, I think. Which, your mileage may vary.
So outside Ace Chemicals, Detective Harvey Bullock and Commissioner Gordon are inspecting the crime scene. 3 men were murdered and tossed aside in a vat of chemicals, similar to the one that, in theory, made the Joker into who he is. They are all dressed like the original Red Hood. There are no new ideas at DC. None. 0. Excuse me, that's not in the summary that I'm reading. They are all dressed like the original Red Hood. Batman arrives and starts talking with Batgirl, and hidden above the fact that the Joker used those murders as a diversion, his real plan was stealing a truck full of his Joker-turning chemicals. Barbara also noted the Joker wanted to be seen in all 3 crime scenes, including this one. So yeah, they also kill a comedian who's wearing a Hawaiian shirt. I think has like a Hawaiian name, and then they kill a judge, I believe. So all these crimes are happening simultaneously, and they all have eyewitnesses that the Joker did it. Thus setting up this idea of, hey, wait a minute, how could there be 3 Jokers in 3 separate places all at the same time? What's the gimmick here?
And Batman's like, hey, I knew about this 5 years ago and just forgot to tell anybody besides Hal.
Yeah, I didn't think this was relevant to anything.
Yeah.
Oh, like I was trying
Hal
to
didn't tell you? Oh.
I was trying to marry Catwoman. Bane was taking over the city. There was a Joker war at some point. Shit happens.
Mm-hmm.
Suddenly, one of the three supposedly dead men wakes up, laughing and asking for help. He gets loaded inside an ambulance, and Batman tells Batman he will escort him to the hospital while he goes to the comedian's crime scene. There's a bit with Commissioner Gordon and Batgirl, and it's kind of alluded to at this point that maybe Commissioner Gordon doesn't know who Batgirl is. Maybe he does. We'll find out later. Anyway, much like Steve Austin and Bret Hart, Red Hood's in the ambulance beating the shit out of this person, trying to get information when Batman shows up. And it's like, hey, knock that shit off.
Anyone else have a Silence of the Lambs moment there, like from the moment when Hannibal Lecter sits up and peels off the fake face? So it's just, I don't know, something about the way Red Hood was hiding in the ambulance really just reminded me of that.
Now, we're wrestling fans. We all went to, I told you were going straight to hell, Bret, as Steve Austin runs out of the driver's seat and beats up Bret Hart. Oh, 97. We miss you so much. Meanwhile, the Joker is driving a truck full of chemicals to an isolated house in the woods. He gets out, knocks on the door. Okay, so the one outside, the one driving the chemicals, that's the Clown. Okay, that's the Joker who is the Clown. The second Joker, the one inside, that's the comedian. And the comedian is wearing the Hawaiian shirt from The Killing Joke. And then finally there's sort of an older, more wrinkled Joker who is ponderous and meditating on things, and that's the criminal.
Cute joke on the Clown Joker's trucker hat. Did you see that?
Yes. So, just kind of moving ahead here, the story is about these three Jokers stealing this vat of chemicals and kidnapping people because the criminal Joker has hatched a plot to try to find the perfect Joker to harass Batman. That's what this whole thing is about. That's what this mystery is about. That's what they are trying to do. At the end of this first issue, there is a... they capture one of the Jokers. I believe it's the Clown. And... am I right about that? Is it the Clown that they capture?
Pretty sure.
I believe so.
Okay. And...
I had no clue who the hell Gabby was.
Chris, anything on Gabby?
It was an old sidekick. I was gonna actually do research and pull up actual issue numbers and stuff, but I figured DC doesn't care, so why should I?
Good point. So they do a bit where they go to an aquarium and they've turned fish into Joker fish and a shark into a Joker shark, and there's a big fight with a bunch of Joker zombies, and at the end of it they capture the Clown Joker, and Red Hood confronts him and decides enough is enough. He's going to kill the Joker. He's at least going to kill this one. Batgirl has an opportunity to stop him. She never misses, but in this particular instance, she throws a batarang and she's not able to stop Jason Todd from shooting the Joker dead in the head. And that is the end of the first issue here. So I'll go
Can
to
we
you.
all agree that bat light on Batman's chest is the dumbest looking thing in the world?
Okay. I
sorry.
didn't
I
even
just
notice
saw
it.
that. I'm sorry. I was just looking. I'm like, Ed, coming. It's like for your children for Christmas, Batlight. I could just imagine kids putting some kind of little thing around their neck, and they press a button. It turns on. It's like, cool, the Batlight.
Batman.
Sorry, it's so toyetic.
Batman the breakfast cereal. Batman the toilet paper. Batman the flamethrower. The kids love it. Speaking of the kids loving it, what did you think of this first issue, Alexis?
Well, I think I have to agree with you. I think this is the best issue of the series. I think this is the best issue of the series. I think this is the best issue of the series. I think this is the best issue of the series. I think this is the best issue of the series. I think this is the best issue of the series. I think this is the best issue of the series. I think this is the best issue of the series. I think this is the best issue of the series. I think this is the best issue of the series. I think this is the best issue of the series. I think this is the best issue of the series. I think this is the best issue of the series. I think this is the best issue of the series. I think this is the best issue of the series. I think this is the best issue of the series. I think this is the best issue of the series. I think this is the best issue of the series. I think this is the best issue of the series. I think this is the best issue of the series. I think this is the best issue of the series. I think this is the best issue of the series. I think this is the best issue of the not going to lie, I thought it was interesting. Again, I know we talk about how nothing is canon, but I did think it interesting that they showed piranhas being affected by the Joker venom when it was actually established by Paul Dini that piranhas were not affected by them in Mad Love.
Yeah, I feel like this is going to be an ongoing theme of this discussion about continuity and continuity schmontinuity.
I did enjoy the issue. I'm a big Red Hood fan. I love seeing his character pop up. I liked the positioning of the panels. Again, I really liked when they showed the different scars that Batman had and, what each wound was. But I also like you got the positioning of the flashback with Batgirl and Red Hood, with her getting shot and with Jason and the crowbar. The way they were placed, it is very reminiscent of how a filmmaker would do a flashback. It's like, and then there's a flash, and then all of a sudden you see the perspective, and then there's another flash, and then we're back to this. And I thought it was very clever.
This first issue, after a bit of a weird start, I thought, and I guess it makes sense for where the story is going, with the scars and everything, but I did think that the first issue had a very cinematic quality to it. I think the idea established in the first issue of there are three of us and we're going to, and the caper is we're experimenting with trying to make another one, and, these are not going well, and so we've killed a lot of people in the process. But the ultimate goal is to find the perfect Joker to harass Batman. I think it's a neat idea. I kind of wish it wasn't this story. Like, I wish the three Jokers had been, what I had said before, sort of a longitudinal, there's been different Jokers over time doing different things, not this concentrated story of what, we'll find out later on what this is going to be. But as just a Batman story and, and yet another crazy plot by the Joker, I thought it was kind of a neat idea. Whether or not it gets executed well remains to be seen. We have two more issues to talk about. Chris, what did you think of issue number 1?
Well, it's Jeff Johns, so it's good. It's good stuff. Definitely, as you just mentioned here, if we look at it as a Batman story, it's a fine Batman story. If we look at it as a Batman story that's been hyped for a half decade, no, we needed more than this. This should have been a lot more than what it was. And that's no fault of the story in and of itself. It's probably just a Chris problem in that when you hype something to hell and back, you really need to deliver more than this. That said, as a Batman story and as a yet another Joker story, it was fine.
Before we move on, I want to discuss, the thing about about Batman and the Bat family is that even though a handful of them use guns and, there has been some pretty violent Batman family stuff, the rule is you can't kill anyone. You kill anyone and you're not you don't get to be part of the family anymore. In fact, you become a villain. And right off the bat, they have Red Hood killing somebody, which is amazing to me that I say that out loud now that I think about it, because every other thing I've seen with the Red Hood is him shooting people, but I guess these people don't die, or he's winging them. Like we're kneecapping people here.
It's not execution style, yeah.
Yeah, but they made it, but they do make a point, and I think it's fair to say that, he in cold blood murders the Joker as he's tied to a chair, helpless. And I feel like that does warrant at least a little bit of discussion, if not at the very least acknowledgement. So I'll go to you first, Alexis. What was your reaction to the Red Hood putting a bullet hole in the Joker's forehead?
Kind of gave me flashbacks to Injustice Volume 1 when, how did they put it on Death Battle? Joker got a Kryptonian high five through the chest.
Yeah.
Have you guys either read the Injustice books or played the games?
I've read the entire series.
I have not. That's out of continuity, so I don't care about it.
Now, I bought the books when we ordered the first game. God, I need to play that again. I love that game. So Gotta admit, if you would expect any member of the Bat family to be the one to break, it was going to be Jason. No question.
Chris, your thoughts on the Joker with the bullet in the head? He's got a bullet in his fucking head. Damn, damn.
I thought that this was, we talked about zigging and zagging, and I thought that Jason was going to be redeemed at the revelation that this wasn't actually a real person that he killed. We'll find out whether or not that's true as we keep going on here, but I thought, I'm just so accustomed to the fake outs that I figured it's like, okay, well, he killed somebody in cold blood, defenseless, tied to a chair, right in the head, and, there's really not a whole lot you can do to walk that back. So I was assuming, and you know what happens when you assume. I was assuming that we were going to find out that this was a clone or an imperfect clone or something that wasn't, a soul-having human being.
Mm-hmm.
I have to admit, I look at this and I honestly have trouble looking at how the Joker would be able to create two other perfect, well, not perfect, but near identical copies of himself with the same memories and everything, to the point that even though they have different modus operandi, they are still similar enough to have fooled Batman and the Gotham police for as long as they did. Part of me kind of looks at this as more that the Joker was maybe split at one point into three different people.
That's what I was thinking with the Dr. Manhattan bit.
Yeah.
And but I don't know. Apparently, there is a follow-up in the works that we'll probably get when we're all like 80. So maybe we'll find out then.
Well,
sorry, by the way, for the corgi commentary in the back.
Well, I think that's, and we talked about this right before the show started, so let's quickly revisit that conversation. I think the problem is it's not very well established how long these three Jokers have been in operation. If you take the story as an island by itself, you can assume, maybe, that Joker Prime, in attempting to embark on this journey of harassing Batman with the perfect Joker, created two other Jokers. This is a recent development. Like, there's always been one Joker up until last Tuesday when he dipped Joe Schmo and another person into the vat, and one became the criminal and one became the clown, and then it was like, okay, I've done it. I've created two other me's. I'm Dr. Frankenstein here. Look at me go. And then kind of because we'll find out later that this is the criminal's plan. And then he and I don't want to get too far ahead, but he kind of acknowledges that, like, I just kind of wanted to see what was going to happen. And the criminal, and so one of us had to, be a leader and be an alpha and come up with something. And so the criminal did, and this is what we're doing. But now I'm bored by it, and we need to move on. So I don't get the impression from the way this is written and the way the characters talk that the Jokers 2 and 3 have been around a while. I think they are recent creations. You want to respond to that, Chris? What do you think?
Well, that all depends on when this story is taking place, because we know as of Rebirth, which was a long time ago, that these three Jokers were established. This might be a week after Rebirth, for all we know. Because, Red Hood is still Quo, Barbara is still that girl. So could very well be, similar time to that, especially with when this was originally supposed to come out. I think that's part of the problem here is the ridiculous delays we've faced over the past 4 years to get this story, where it comes to a point, and this happens with a lot of John's work, like Doomsday Clock. You don't know where things fit because they took so goddamn long to come out, to where by the time they hit, they're no longer relevant. They're obsolete before they even publish because everyone else has moved on. So I really don't know. And we'll talk more about the Joker's real name later, but we'll get to that. But I really couldn't say.
I think that's a really good point, though, and I had kind of forgotten about it. momentarily. But, the Mobius Chair says there have been 3. And so it's entirely probable that I'm only partially right. That over the course of time, he created a second Joker and said, go and be free and create, chaos. And, now you have 2 Jokers acting independently, doing different things, and one might get captured and one might not, and, shit happens. And then, he did so well with the first one over a period of time, he's like, let me make another one. See what that happens. And then in this story, the 3 of them teamed up instead of acting independently.
Oh, Lord, I just had a really, really scary thought that we're going to get mini-series called Before Batman 3 Jokers. And we're going to get these backstories, and we're going to have to pay like $6 a piece for them. I hope not. I hope not.
I will say there is just one more thing I'd like to add about this issue. I want to see more Joker sharks. I mean, again, it's like we can argue till the day is over about who's got the canon on the piranha fish being accessible to or being affected by Joker venom. But everything is made better with great white sharks, and I want to see Joker use a great white shark with a Joker smile more often, because that is just all kinds of awesome.
All right, issue number 2. Inside the hideout of the 3 Jokers, the comedian is hallucinating on having dinner with his family. The criminal comes into the room and says, "Hey, knock that shit off." He informs him that one of the 3 is dead. Red Hood shot the clown in the head. The comedian is clearly pissed about interrupting his delusions. Meanwhile, Batman and Commissioner Gordon are inspecting the house of Judge Walls, murdered by his dogs who are infected with Joker gas. While trying to understand why the Joker targeted the judge, Batgirl steps inside to tell Batman about Jason. Now, here's an interesting thing. And it's kind of one of my favorite parts of the whole series. This discussion that they have about what to do about Jason now that he's killed the Joker. What if... And I just want to stop and talk about this really quickly. What if they made Jason give up his identity and turn himself in, or if they tried to turn him in for killing the Joker, what that would mean for the rest of the Bat family. In this particular case, this specific incident, Barbara was there. Barbara could have stopped him and may or may not have chosen not to, depending on how you interpret the missing of the Batarang. But ultimately, where Batman goes logically is that if Jason goes down, all of our identities will be revealed, and then it's kind of all over for us. And I'll go to you first, Alexis. When you first read that and you saw Batman's logic, what did you think? How did you feel?
Considering Barbara's attitude, I can't help but feel that these 2 have had a discussion in the past where Barbara may have tried to kill Joker and Batman had to rein her in, saying no. Because there's not just this whole, it's like what he did was wrong. You almost get the sense of, you wouldn't let me do it, but he did it. There's just, it's not just justice. There's a bit of a vindictive rage in some of the things she's saying in her attitude.
Yeah, there's a conversation they have, and it goes to the guilt Bruce has over everything that happened to Jason. And, I've often talked about, I think Batman is best when he's being a detective, and not just a punchy ninja. But I think also when you get into the psychology of Bruce Wayne, not the Joe Chill killed my parents stuff, but more of what he has wrought. I always liked The Long Halloween as a really good example of this, but we've seen it in other Batman stories. I've always liked when Batman is handled as a character wrestling with his legacy. You know what I mean, Chris? He went into being a vigilante because he saw Gotham going over a cliff because of the mob, and in turn he created this whole other problem. This was established again in The Long Halloween, that with the absence of the mob, the monsters took over. Monsters like Scarecrow and Joker and Riddler, etc., etc. The gimmick. I'm going to say the gimmick wrestlers, the gimmick rogues gallery,
the supervillains. Yeah.
they filled the space that was left void by the taking down of the mob by Batman. And and Batman has to wrestle with that, like, is Gotham any better off with Batman than without? And certainly some of the villains have pointed that out to him, too. I think the Joker, for one, has often said to him, you made us. Like, you brought this on Gotham itself by doing what you've done. Had you just let the natural course of the police, corrupt as they are, dealing with the mob, none of us would be here. But, and then there's other people who have kind of accused Bruce of being obsessed with being Batman and minimizing his Bruce Wayne self. And so there's a lot of psychological grist for the mill that make Batman a really interesting character, and you see a little bit of that in him wrestling with his guilt over everything that's happened to Jason. And she says to him, like, why didn't you try a little bit harder to rein Jason in once he came back to life? And, and try to help him. And Bruce is like, well, I kind of thought, just like you, over time, strength of character would persevere and he would heal himself. What do you think about all that, Chris?
Well, Jason was also not very, he was quite hesitant to getting any sort of help when he came back here. He was a very angry young man, and I suppose it stands to reason that he would be.
Yeah, that's the thing. Having your head cracked open and being buried alive often sets you, one might be peeved. Sure,
it's a day runner. Yeah.
Not to mention the Lazarus Pit has a tendency to drive its users. What was with the way they said it in the TV show? Completely insane.
Was that it? Was it the Lazarus Pit that brought him back to life, or did he just, not be dead?
They explained it a couple different ways. Part of it had to do with the Superboy punch during Infinite Crisis, and then
stop! Every time you say Infinite Crisis, I get a seizure.
Well, we're doing that next week, right?
Oh God! I just shit myself. Damn it, Chris! I haven't shit myself since the summer.
Where is it?
Ugh.
Didn't we already cover everything about Infinite Crisis?
We've never actually talked about Infinite Crisis. I read it during the hurricane where I was sequestered in jail, and I almost asked to be put into isolation myself when it was over. Wow, that comic.
Another Jeff Johns book.
I'm just going to say, I love the way you say that, and there's probably at least one or two listeners who have never heard our show before, have no idea what you do for a living, and you just said, when I was sequestered in jail. And now everyone's going to go, wait, what?
They let you read comics in jail?
For the record, I have not actually read the book, A Death in the Family, but I have seen the animated Under the Red Hood, or Under the Hood, I can't remember how, like several times, and they do use the Lazarus Pit in that. So that's my
probably they weren't going to do Superboy punch in reality in an animated show. That would have driven everybody insane. But
alone drives everyone insane.
But the conversation that Barbara and Bruce have here, while one thing about the art here, the art's fantastic, but this scene, it was very weird because we're seeing a reflection of Barbara's face, but it actually looks like she's in the car. And I'm like, well, who's saying what? I had to look at it a few times. Maybe I'm just dense, but I thought it was a little bit off-putting when I was reading it. But the conversation was good, but it was a bit much. Like if you have a kid who tattles a lot, and it's like, okay, I get it. Oh, okay, I get it. Okay, calm down. I heard you the first 5 times. I'm going to deal with it. And she's like, well, how are you going to deal with it? I'll deal with it. Well, you need to deal with it. Okay, I'm going to deal with it. I don't know what kind of answer he could have given her at that point that would have satisfied her. And to Alexis's point, there was a story called Joker Last Laugh that came out probably, 1999-ish. And in that one, Dick Grayson actually kills the Joker. He beats him to death. Then Batman actually gives the Joker mouth-to-mouth to resuscitate him. So that's the big no-no. You don't kill the Joker, even though you probably should have a very long time ago. So I don't know if maybe that might be. I doubt they're referencing Joker Last Laugh, but it does. There is a pattern of behavior there where Batman does. He does draw a line at murder, and maybe that's a reaction to that.
I still always remember Red Hood's speech about it's It's like, I forgave you a long time ago for not rescuing me, but I have to know why. For the love of God, why is he still alive?
Mm-hmm.
Just, my God, I love that speech.
If I can make a recommendation, I think it's already been done on source material. I think Jesse did it within the first year or two of the podcast being in existence, but so I don't think we're going to revisit it at any given time. But I would definitely recommend reading A Death in the Family. I read it contemporaneously when it was published as a trade, not the individual issues. And it's a great story.
Sure. I need to put it on the list of things that I'll eventually read after I'm done reading everything I need to read for you. What was that thing you put on Facebook the other night? I'm finally getting to watch something, and it's not for the podcast.
Yeah, and then my wife kind of pushes me into the pool and says, "Hey, we should finish watching this together. I actually found something that we both enjoy." And I'm like, "Well, fuck! Now I got to wait for her to catch up, and we got to watch this together, and our schedules hardly ever match anymore. And god damn it, I'll just watch the morning show." Anyway, I do love that Reese Witherspoon. All right, so after Batgirl nags Batman, Jason Todd is still out hunting for the other two Jokers, willing to end once and for all the career of the Clown Prince of Crime. He successfully guesses where the Jokers are right now and heads there. At the same time, Batman and Batgirl go to Blackgate Penitentiary. Inside the crime scene of the murder of Judge Walls, Batman found fingerprints of one particular criminal, Joe Chill. Dun, dun, dun. The shooter, infamously, who killed Thomas and Martha Wayne, don't you understand? Pearls, Chris, pearls.
Every time.
The Mark of Zorro, don't you understand? Dark alleys.
That's Spanish for fox or something.
Do I have to give back my nerd card for admitting I had to Google who Alexander Sartorius was?
Do you want to field that one, Chris? Because
I'm not sure who that is. Who is it?
Dr. Phosphorus.
Oh, with the green hands. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, the I've been watching too much freaking Bruce Timm. I look at that and I thought that, and all I could think was Blight from Batman Beyond.
So Bruce understands what Chill's part in all of this is, so he breaks into his cell while passing the cells of the aforementioned Dr. Phosphorus and Rupert Thorne. Batman arrives, he finds the cell empty, and then Barbara says, hey, he's not here because he has stage 4 cancer and he's in the infirmary. Oh.
Thanks for wasting my gas, Barbara.
Yeah, exactly. Moving on. So, Red Hood's trail leads him to Gotham City Athletic Association, an abandoned sports club. Opening the locked door, Jason steps inside to find dozens of bodies bathed in the Joker-turning chemicals filled pool.
That is shit straight out of a horror film.
Yeah. Shocked, he tells himself that Batman must see this in that right moment. One of the bodies takes him by the leg, screaming for help. Jason shoots him, like you do. As he struggles to focus, Jason gets hit from behind by the comedian, Joker, who drags him away from the pool, mumbling about him being perfect for their plan, and also collecting Jason's helmet. Waking up...
Zombie?
Waking
He cocks his gun, but there's no bang. I'm guessing the dude just kind of fell back into the water.
Waking up, the Hood is bound to a chair, naked as the day he is born. The criminal starts speaking to him. Once a petty thief, he was reborn as Robin. Then, broken by a crowbar, he was reborn a second time as the vigilante known as Red Hood. But things happen in threes, don't you understand? He will be reborn a third time. Just like him, he will change. Before Batman, he led Gotham's crime, but then Jason explodes in anger, cutting the madman off and telling him he's already shot the brains out of one of them, and he will be next. As an answer, the criminal starts laughing, then stops, telling Jason that laughing hurts him. Jason tries to take something out of what the criminal told him about what he could that he could be the original Joker. The criminal then tells him why he was taken as prisoner. As the comedian puts the Red Hood helmet on Jason's head, now painted with a Joker smile. That was creepy. That was creepier looking than the shark, by the way.
No, the shark was all kinds of awesome. This whole scene is all kinds of WTF-ery.
Yeah. They are searching for someone to turn into the perfect, better version of the Joker, as I had said before. All the victims they killed were tests for their final product. But they were not enough. Jason is the perfect candidate. They know he hates Batman, and they know why he adopted the Red Hood alias. But in the end, they decided that Jason is not good enough. Seems like a cop-out to me. After all, so he'll have to pass the opportunity. Once the criminal finished talking, the comedian strikes Jason with the crowbar through the helmet. This poor bastard. And crowbars to the head. So let me stop there. Because I said, Jason goes there, they kidnap Jason, they strip him down, they're like, all right, it's time, we're going to make... it feels like they wrote themselves into a corner, and without any good solutions, they were just like, maybe not. Maybe we'll just hit you with a crowbar instead. Yeah, never mind. I think Jeff Johns is a good writer, and certainly his run on, the Green Lantern back in the day is heralded as, the height of the Green Lantern series. And certainly Jeff Johns, talented as he is, has led a lot of the DC on film and TV, especially TV. But here it just feels like they went... we
need this to be 3 parts.
Yeah. And I don't understand. You're writing this, then if you're writing yourself into a situation where you're going to douse Jason Todd in Joker juice to turn him into a Joker... do it or don't do it, but write it in a way that it makes sense. The up and decide that they're not going to do it just because seems like very weak writing to me, Alexis. I had a real... this whole series was a mixed bag for me. This is one of the negative parts. Writing into places where you don't come up with good dramatic solutions for the hurdles you fucking created. So, it isn't like... somebody else started this idea and then got, hired by Marvel or something, or walked off the job, or, into the woods to live deliberately. He wrote this. And it's midway through, he just got ADD. And, I don't like this idea anymore. And I'm well, I'm committed now, so fuck it. They just decided not to do it. I don't know. What did you think of it?
I have to admit, there is something a little bit twisted on the fact that, okay, so it's the clown is the one who's already been killed, and it's now the comedian who is using the crowbar on Jason. We also know that the comedian, based on the way he was dressed earlier, is the one who put the bullet in Barbara. And you just kind of sit back and you think, wait, so the Joker that Jason killed wasn't even the Joker that killed him the first time. That's the comedian who's wailing on him now because he talks about how it feels even better this time around beating the ever-loving shit out of him. And again, there's just some kind of little twisted. It's yeah, you thought you killed the one who did all that torment to you, and it wasn't him.
What did you think of the idea that they wrote it up to the point where we're going to make it's an actually interesting dramatic choice to be we're going to change Jason of all people, the one who suffered and was summarily killed or not, depending on your interpretation, by the Joker, and we're going to make you a Joker. That's cliffhanger, good dramatic TV stuff. And their resolution, Chris, is maybe not.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see what I'm saying? Why I'm so frustrated with this?
Yeah, I get it. And while the payoff in the third book, I think is actually a little bit better. I think this would have worked better if it turned out they were playing it all along as more of a red herring to really screw with Red Hood and Batman, instead of just admitting midpoint, screw it.
Or save him. There's an interesting idea. They don't get to do it because he's saved, and they're like, well, that didn't work. Let's do Joe Chill instead.
One or the other. I think it could have been better. Like I said, it's if it turns out it's oh, you really thought we were going to do that? Oh, we were just totally fucking with you guys. Which is, in fairness, is something that Joker would absolutely do. So I agree with you that it is a bit of a 180 where I'd say this could have been done a lot better, and I'm saying it's not the worst plot twist or turning point, whatever term you want to use for it, but it could have been written so much better instead of just a essential running into a brick wall of plot.
I didn't want the book to become unwieldy, so I'm going to throw this out there. But I don't want people to think like we need to do Batman Incorporated in here. Like I don't need the entire Bat family. We don't need to dig up Tim Drake. But like maybe one or two other characters, you know. And I know people hate this, but I think sometimes it's necessary as a dramatic device. A Deus Ex Machina where maybe Batwoman finds him and saves him, like she's out there too, and you know, again, they don't get to douse him in Joker juice because he's saved last minute by another member of the Bat family. And I don't even care who it is. Like, it could be Batwoman. Maybe it doesn't have to be somebody in the Bat family. Have it be, I mean, this was written post Tom King, so maybe the one of those two characters from the early Tom King run. Chris, you know who I'm talking about, right?
Oh, the Gotham guy and Gotham gal?
Yeah. You know, just... well, why don't you come up with an idea, Chris?
Or just Tom King in general.
Well, I understand them wanting to keep it to Batgirl and Red Hood. Those are the two members of the Bat family that have been affected by the Joker the hardest, obviously.
Mm-hmm. You could have Jason save himself. He could have bursted from his bonds.
They're keeping with the three theme. You know, there's 3 heroes, 3 villains, and unfortunately 3 issues, which is why we have scenes like this, because there was not 3 issues worth of story here. They needed to fill this. And, you know, sometimes the seams of decompression are very visible, and this feels like one of those because, like you said, Mark, it's like they painted themselves into a corner just so they could, you know, kick a hole in the wall and walk out. It just, it wasn't. It didn't feel Johnsian. You know, not to sound too precious about it, but it didn't feel like Jeff Johns' voice, because usually he's a lot more clever than this.
So, furthering this discussion, moments later, Barbara and Bruce find the place, and they go and they walk inside, and they are attacked by Joker zombies. They come out victorious and soon find Jason unconscious and naked on the floor. Barbara is in shock while Bruce approaches him to check him out. Jason explodes against him, telling him to stay away as all that happened in his life is Batman's fault. In anger and despair, Barbara tries and succeeds in calming him. Jason just wants a safe place to stay in. Barbara takes him to her apartment and leaves him there to rest. Batgirl tries to make Bruce do something, but Batman tells her Gotham is the priority now, as it always is. Seems like that's like an ongoing cop-out for Bruce. You know, like, hey, the people in your life are struggling, and you need to take a step back and deal with the relationships in the world that you fostered, that you created, that are now in crisis. And he goes, nope, I must save the city.
Oh, come on. You've never had a moment where your wife said you need to do the dishes and you said Gotham needs me and you jumped out the window?
Here's the problem with that. I know my wife. She'd be like, fuck you. If I ever pulled the Gotham needs me and jumped out the window, she'd walk outside and be like, I don't give a shit who needs you. I asked you to do the dishes. I'm the priority here, fuckface. I made my wife dinner last night. How about that?
What'd you make?
Tortellini and sausages and a pasta sauce, red pasta sauce, marinara. Yeah, you know, I can use a microwave and follow directions and boil water. I'm good like that. All right.
I'll need Robert and me to mail you food.
I think you should mail me food. It's not that I need. I don't need anything. But I think you should want to mail me food in an envelope. Moving on. So, in the apartment, Jason finds Barbara's wheelchair and books about nerve damage and pain therapy. Barbara comes back and enters the apartment when Jason gets out of the shower. Jason confesses to Barbara he looked through her things, like you do, especially the pain therapy books. They agree about the fact that there are a lot of similarities between them and their tragedy, and Barbara tells Jason she lived through a moment much similar to the one he's having right now, and she wants to help him get better. As they look into each other's eyes, they kiss. Yay! Love is in the air.
Ew, he's getting dick sloppy seconds.
Wait, Dick Grayson? Batgirl? Barbara?
Never.
Oh, come on, I just couldn't resist the obvious joke.
No, I'm like really befuddled. Like, were they a thing? Because I know that Dick was with Stargirl for a while. I didn't think him and Batgirl were a thing. Did that happen?
Yeah, they were almost engaged. I think they might have been engaged when she was Oracle.
Did Bane break up their marriage too?
If only. No, I think Dan DiDio waved a magic wand and then flushed a toilet, and it went away.
Okay.
Or that than Mephistopheles.
I don't know. Are we shipping Barbara and Jason? I mean, they're not going to make it because nobody in comics can ever be happy. But for a moment here, I actually kind of enjoyed this. You know, this is a very windy and roller coastery tale that they're telling. And while I was annoyed previously with the, you know, as I just said, I liked for that moment that they were, that they, you know, they had a moment together. And then, of course, they took it away, and she's going to opt to not be with him in this book. But I don't know, Chris. Jason and Barbara, you think? Are we drawing a heart around them or no?
As long as they don't give them their own series, I'm fine with it.
What about you, Alexis? I mean, you just said ill, so I'm going to guess no, but I figured I'd give you a chance to respond.
There's no way in hell a relationship between the two of them would ever work. She's the police commissioner's daughter. She has always been Batman's right-hand man, the one who always knows the right thing to do and never questions what sense of the law she needs to be on.
But Jason's a bad boy. Come on.
Jason
Dylan
just
McKay.
shot a freaking Joker. He's closed.
Yeah, man. He's like Sons of Anarchy, the bad boy. Oh, the commissioners. See, I'm loving this as I'm pitching it now. The Batgirl is the straight as an arrow commissioner's daughter, and Jason's the thug, the ne'er-do-well.
It's a Romeo and Juliet story.
Absolutely. Beauty and the Beast.
You go write your fanfics and shut up.
It's Brenda Walsh and Dylan McKay.
Find me the slash fiction of Batgirl and Red Hood right away.
Fanfic writers, to your keyboards!
And Chris and I will review it on the next episode of Source Material slash fiction.
Yes,
Good. You
the
two
musical
are on your
episode.
own for that. I don't do slash. I refuse to read fanfics. I have my limits.
Chris and I like our dirty books, don't we, Chris?
What?
All right, moving on. So they kiss, and then, you know, like all girls do, like, hey, this was a terrible idea, and we should have never have done it. Okay.
I regret that immediately. Yes.
Yes. Meanwhile, back in the city, Batman is investigating inside the Batcave about some missing persons files while observing a place in Alaska on the globe. This will become important later. In Blackgate, the comedian kidnaps Joe Chill, this poor bastard, from the infirmary and starts to record his confession about why, Joe Chill, why did you murder Thomas and Martha Wayne? Hoy. And that is the end of issue 2. All right. Anything I did not ask you guys that you want to talk about with issue 2 before we move on? Because we stopped a few times, a few detours to talk about this issue. Chris, anything left unsaid that you want to bring up?
It was a nice cliffhanger. If I were reading this in real time, I would be very excited to get the next issue. But it felt, I mean, it's so weird to say with so few pages between these 3 issues that this felt a little fillery. And it kind of felt a little fillery. I don't know that this needed 3 books. This could have been this probably should have just been released as one thing. But that's, kind of just nuts and bolts and Chris is thinking too hard about things he shouldn't worry about, sort of a territory. But I like the cliffhanger. I thought that was okay.
See, I could have seen this being, I don't necessarily see this as being a feature-length motion picture, but I feel like this could have been a couple, an episode or 2 of a television show. Like,
Sure.
This definitely has a visual, cinematic, dramatic quality to it. And it reads more, for me, and I want to get your opinion on this, Alexis, this reads more like a TV script than it does a traditional comic book. What do you think?
Actually, yeah, I think you're right. A lot of the way the panels are organized actually calls to mind more storyboarding from a movie set or something.
Yeah, I could definitely see this on an episode of the Birds of Prey. That was a magnificent show that you and I covered for TV Party. So this could have been an episode of that. You were cursing at me, but like Skype screwed up, so I missed the insult. Go ahead again.
I hate you.
That's what I'm here for, folks. Jokes.
I still have the freaking DVD set. I wasn't able to give it to my friend before COVID hit, and she refuses to interact with the outside world because she's got 3 little boys.
Mail it to her. Send it to her in an envelope. Or keep it for posterity. Remember the good times we had talking about this WB show.
You talk about how when I'm on the show, the rating or the views and the listens actually go up. I can just take a nice little sabbatical from you.
You'll come back. They all come back. Issue number 3. Inside the Batcave, Bruce, Barbara, and Jason are investigating the plan of the 3 Jokers, and this plan that they've got to transform someone into the perfect Joker. They go over the pictures of additional Jokers and identified them as a dentist, a serial killer, a drifter, a babysitter, a judge, an artist, a city planner, a zookeeper, an actor, a painter, a fisherman, a felon, an inventor, an interrogator, a chemist, a fighter, a talk show host. There's a lot of people here. A cult leader, a stalker, a coroner, a surgeon, a picker, a flicker, a lover, and
midnight
a sinner.
toker.
Yes, all of them. Jason told Bruce and Barbara about the words of the criminal. They want to create the perfect Joker, as we've talked about earlier in the podcast, even if he does not know what they mean by that. One thing is for sure, though, the Red Hood wants to kill the 2 remaining Jokers, as Batman is too weak to do it by himself. This enrages Batman. We have more dramatic tension. Who tells Jason if he really believed he never wanted to end the Joker's life. He did desire that many times, especially after what the Joker did to the 2 of them. But
again, the speech from A Death in the Family, it's like he does go over this whole thing. It's like, you really think I have gone a single day without wanting to kill him? Right.
And Red Hood ponders, I don't know what stops Batman from killing him. He's had multiple opportunities. All right. Bruce says, hey, let's focus on what's important here, not bloodlust, but solving this particular crime. He analyzes the 3 Jokers and the fact that each and every one of them played a role in his career. The criminal reminds him of his first encounters he had with the Madman. This is pre-crisis Joker. The clown brings up memories of a cartoonish, macabre showmanship like hiring Gaggy, and the comedian has a sadistic streak stronger than the both of them, as seen in Batman Endgame and Joker War. Batman believes that one of those is the original and that at some point he created the other 2. Barbara, though, tells him that another option might be, right, the Joker created these 2 recently, this is the discussion we had before, to better hide his identity. Batgirl hopes that in this confusion they might finally discover the true name of the Joker. This will come up later. She asks Bruce if he has some more info about it to share, and Jason tells her he would not say anything to them, and that he believes he knows far more about the Joker's true past. Batman tells him that if he knew the Joker's real name, he would share it with them. Liar! Liar.
Mm-hmm.
They get interrupted by an alarm signaling something happened at Blackgate. They discover that the Joker's kidnapped Joe Chill. While investigating inside his cell, again, Batman finds a group of handwritten letters that Chill wanted to send him, but never did. To know more, he needs to address Reverend Evans, who could tell him what was going on inside the conscience of Chill. Talking with the Reverend, Batman learns that Chill wrote the letters long before he got sick, and that he really could have changed, feeling guilty for what he did that tragic night. Meanwhile, outside of Blackgate, Jason promises to Barbara that he will never do what he did with the clown again because of her. Aw, Jason's in love. The 3 head to the condemned Monarch Theater, as inside the pack of letters, Batman found one clearly inserted there by the Joker. Inside, a ticket for the Mask of Zorro, Chris. Pearls!
Oh!
Zorro!
Oh, man.
Pearls!
That
Dark
almost
alleys!
never gets referenced every single issue.
I don't know if you saw it, but in Batman vs. Superman, they showed for the first time...
I didn't see that.
I've seen it. I saw it once, and I have refused to see it again.
Batman versus Superman, Chris. I don't know if you know this or not, but for the first time ever on film, they showed Batman's parents being killed, and many people didn't know that's how Batman became Batman.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's wild.
I actually remember.
Thank God for the movies.
I took my aunt to see the Joker movie, and I thought it was kind of clever how they still had them exiting Zorro the gay Blade. And I was telling her about how it's always been a Zorro film, and she looks at me and she goes, "In what?" Yeah, well, she says, "I get that, but in what universe would the gay Blade be the film that inspired Batman?"
Anyway, where was I? As they enter, a video about the confession of why Chill murdered Dwayne starts being projected on screen, where he mentioned that he had no idea the people he shot were Thomas and Martha Wayne. All right, full fucking stop. It's the 19... and Thomas and Martha Wayne are basically the Rockefellers of Gotham City. Thomas Wayne built, from what's been told canonically, historically, in these comics, Thomas Wayne fucking built Gotham. How would
Chill
you
knew
not
Chill
know
knew who he was? He just didn't know. He just had an assumption about him, right? Like he knew that they were the Waynes, but he didn't know that they were good people. Was that the gimmick? Was it like he knew that he just assumed that they were just haughty, rich people that had everything that he wanted, and it wasn't until after he'd killed them that he found out all the good that they did for the city.
Look, I'm not saying Wikipedia is the most, is the written in stone, most truthful place to read things. But according to whoever wrote the Wikipedia page, a video about the confession of why Chill murdered the Wayne starts being projected on screen, where he mentioned he had no idea.
Oh, no,
he had no idea.
Okay, I got the page open right here. The truth is, when I saw the Waynes coming down the alley, I knew who they were, and I hated them for what they had. They had everything.
Okay.
Hang on a second.
Sorry about writing that Wikipedia page. To
fucking fix it, Chris.
Yeah. The Waynes, I figured there were people like me because of people like them. I was angry, bitter, lost. I thought I'd take whatever they had on them. So basically, you had somebody who saw a one percenter and figured that one percenter's greed is the reason why there are so many downtrodden people in the world.
All right, so the gimmick here is that they kidnapped Joe Chill because Joe Chill, who killed Batman's parents, would make the perfect Joker. Okay. Turning Joe into the Joker would make him the one that matters. Sure.
Because we never see the Joker. He never comes around. He's never in the comics. He's never on the covers of the comics. We need to get a Joker in here that'll actually matter, damn it. Because the one we have now we never see him. He never shows up.
I wish they had if they were going to do this, I wish they had made Joe Chill look like Jack Nicholson. Because that would have brought everything full circle.
If it were Gary Frank drawing it, it would have looked like a heroin-addicted Jack Nicholson, yes.
Did you see the 89 Batman with Michael Keaton?
I did, yes.
Okay.
That's one of the last couple of comic movies I ever saw.
Good. Then you got that reference. Okay.
I did.
As Batgirl and Red Hood fend off attacks...
I'm just glad they didn't name him Jack Napier.
Damn it. As Batgirl and Red Hood fend off the attacks from the comedian, Batman saves Chill from falling into a chemical bath that would have turned him into another Joker, also kicking the criminal out of the theater. Once again demonstrating his morals, Batman saves Chill another time from certain death, surprising the criminal. Joe knows who Batman is and thinks it would be right if he wanted to take his life. Fuck, does everyone know who Batman is? As the criminal reappears... Yeah. I
don't think he knows who he is. He says they talk about you in Blackgate. Joe Chill's been in Blackgate pretty much ever since he killed the Waynes. I don't think he's ever gotten out and seen Batman face to face. I think that means I know who you are. You're an urban myth or something to those of us who haven't seen the light of day in over 20 years.
they teamed up in Batman Year 2, but your guess is as good as mine if that even ever happened. That's what they made that into Mask of the Phantasm. They adapted that into that animated series deal. But yeah, Batman and Joe Chill, they actually team up in that, and Batman carries a gun for that story. It also features some early Todd McFarlane work, but I doubt very highly that it's still a thing that ever happened.
All right, so getting to wrap this here, the criminal reappears ready to blow himself up, but then the comedian shoots him in the head and says, all right, we're done. this whole ride we've been on, I'm done with it. I'm bored already. Take me in. I feel like Jeff Johns projected himself into that version of the Joker. Like, as he's writing this, he's like, I fucking hate doing this. Why won't Warner Brothers call me to consult on another movie? Why? Why am I just stuck here writing comics? I'm Jeff Johns, goddammit. Maybe I'm projecting. Who knows? But Batman.
No, I think you're right on.
It does feel like Johns is like, I just want this to fucking end, and so he shoots him and says, "Take me to jail.
They don't need me anymore."
You think Bendis is prettier than me? You think Bendis is prettier than me? All right. Batman rode with the comedian, the real Joker, riding with him to Arkham, and he tells Jason go home in the Batmobile. Jason once again approaches Barbara, telling her that he would like to be more than friends. But Batgirl says that Jason interprets what happened between them differently than her. Oh, this is the worst part of the comic. This breaks my heart. Every guy reading this, and we know mostly only guys read this.
Jason is so important to me, Jason.
Jason got friend zoned. No, it's worse than being hit in the head with a crowbar.
It's Jim and Pam on Casino Night.
I only like you as a friend, Jason. Ah! Bury me alive again, and this time leave me there. Poor guy. Anyway, so she friend zones him, and Joker says to Batman that he knows he's Bruce Wayne, he knows Batgirl is Barbara Gordon, and that Red Hood is Jason Todd. But it doesn't matter. Joker will never reveal their secret identity, because if he does, Bruce's Batman might end his career. Batman asks him what he truly wants, and the Joker tells him that the Joker is the personification of mystery and chaos, and he's chaos, the devil, nothing and everything for Batman. See, here's my problem with this. Is Jeff Johns is taking an idea that was established in the Lego Batman movie. And so far, I haven't seen anyone do it better than that. Do you saw the Lego Batman movie, right, Alexis?
Of course. I took the same man who saw the Joker movie with me to see that one. And I still remember after you do the giant roster call of all the villains, she turned and looked at me. And I just, without even turning, I said, yep, those are all canon villains, including the Condiment King.
But, I mean, in all seriousness, the idea that the Joker wants to eclipse all the relationships and everything in Bruce Wayne's life and be everything to Batman, be obsessed with each other until they... Chris is going to get this reference and probably laugh. He wants to be with Batman at the top of the War Games cage and dive off of it together with him through the table.
I go crazy. Or am I amazing? Maybe I'm amazing.
I will never. Maybe it wasn't the War Games cage. Maybe it just might have been a regular cage match. But I will never forget that podcast. As I referred to it as they both did a ritual suicide together, and you're like, Cole says to her, Cole kisses Gargano gently and says, "I love you," as they dive off into the table. I will never forget that line. It's one of my favorite podcast moments ever.
I'm trying to remember. I think there was another comic where Joker admitted he knew who Batman was, but he wouldn't tell anyone because he said, it's my personal joke. If I tell anyone, then it's not mine anymore.
Right.
So Yeah, because I was like, oh, I've known who Batman was for ages. I'm not telling anyone. What's the fun in that?
Right. Essentially, what they keep coming back to, and what I'm referencing, even as silly as I'm referencing it, is no writer who takes on the Joker character can get away from this idea that the Joker's ultimate goal, other than being an agent of chaos, as said really nicely in The Dark Knight by Michael Caine, some men just want to see the world burn. So that's half the Joker right there. The other half is obsessed with Batman. And so long as Batman's out there, I mean, here's the thing. This got referenced and made a big deal of in the fucking Dark Knight Returns. The comic. Written in the 80s. If you'll remember, Chris, you've read The Dark Knight Returns, right?
Most of it. I hated it.
Alexis, Dark Knight Returns, yes or no?
Frank Miller, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've read it.
Okay, so Batman gave up being Batman for a period of time. And then the story is this takes place after Gotham has fallen off a cliff again and is, run amok by cyber gangs.
Yeah, Bruce basically gets up and says, damn it, I don't have any cartilage left.
And so, where do we find the Joker? And I can't remember what issue it is, if it's issue 2 or 3. But the Joker has been in a hospital catatonic for years. And the only thing that wakes the Joker up is knowing that Batman's back. That's how long this idea has germinated throughout DC Comics and several iterations, crises, and so forth. It's maddening, Chris. They can't get away from this one idea. And
every time they present it as though they're doing it for the first time.
Yeah, it does
the
come
Joker's
off
obsessed. It's like, yeah, no shit.
It does come off like, we like the smell of our own farts, doesn't it?
Oh, 100%.
Look at how clever I'm Jeff Johns. Look at how clever I am. I came up with this idea that was done in the Lego movie and was done in the Dark Knight Returns.
Dozens and dozens of times before. I think everybody who gets their shot writing Batman will do the damn Zorro scene. They will show the Martha and Thomas's gravestones, and they will have the Joker and Batman with their weird dysfunctional relationship.
I now need
it's like a rite of passage.
I now need some
The Dark Knight, and even then, you have that great line from Heath Ledger. It's like, you won't kill me out of some misguided sense of justice, and I won't kill you because you're too much fun. Right. I think you and I are destined to do this forever. And I'm not going to lie, that's actually one of my favorite lines from that movie.
Look, I think if I had brain damage and didn't know any of what I just said, and I read this comic, it's a fine enough idea. Ooh, the Joker is obsessed with Batman, and that's what keeps this whole thing going. And Batman won't kill the Joker, and so they're locked in this eternal torment of each other. Yeah. Okay, that's a great idea, divorced from everything that came before it and will come after it. But
which would
since
be the same thing over and over again.
But I can't divorce myself from the context, and so what you're left with is not a great idea, but the same idea done ad nauseum for fucking decades. And while I'm saying that, let me get this out. Now I need somebody to write a comic where Batman and Joker jump off a building together and fall through a table.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. With Steven Tyler and his daughter.
Yes, with Aerosmith playing in the background. Mm-hmm. Someone do this. I need it. I don't care where it is. Television show, movie, comic book. I need the Joker to kiss Batman passionately and say, I love you, as they both jump off a building. Tom King, you know what to do now. You ruined the wedding. You owe me this.
That's like the least of what he's ruined.
Well, I was a special...
It's like, can you guys seriously stop sending him death threats? You're making him into a very mean person. You should have seen how badly he snapped at a handful of people at one of my last conventions.
Okay.
Oh, that poor guy who never produced one of the death threats that he said he got. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I got death threats. Can you show us one? Well, no, that's my personal joke. If I show it to you, it'll be your joke.
I want it referenced once again. I liked his Vision series. Tom King's not all bad.
Okay.
Moving on. All right, so anything else about this never-ending idea that everyone seems to have but thinks they're the only one? Alexis?
I'm sorry, are we talking about the last few pages of the book, or are we still hung up on this shit with between Joker and Batman?
Still hung up on this shit between Cole and Gargano.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you need to stop with the freaking fight references, because you need to remember it's me.
Liv and Alicia, then.
I'm not going to get this image out of my head. Alexis water skiing on alligators and Batman and the Joker doing. I don't want to close my eyes. I don't want to fall asleep because I miss you, baby, and I don't want to miss a thing.
Mark, I'm scared to death of alligators.
That's your takeaway? All right.
They're dinosaurs.
Well, I am. They scare me. That's one of my worst fears. I have this horrible fear of alligators and crocodiles. They really terrify me.
All right, we end this series, The Three Jokers, with Jason writing Barbara a letter saying, if we can only be together, I will give up being the Red Hood and shooting people in the head. And because you should put letters underneath the door, not on the door where they can fall off like they do. It falls off the door, she never sees it. So, classic Three's Company sitcom misunderstanding. Jason Todd doesn't think Barbara loves him. He's already been friend-zoned. I thought that was established. But hey, even giving it a last crack, she'll never know that Jason wrote her this letter, and Jason will always think that Barbara shunned him. And so, that's that. In the epilogue, and we're back to Alaska again.
Del Camino.
So you forgot to mention, we have seen Bruce actually, it looks like he makes amends with Joe Chill before he dies.
Yeah.
Which is very nice.
Yeah, in the summary that I'm reading, it references that. I didn't want to go back over the last 10 minutes of the show, but because the line is, he forgave Joe Chill, they've made amends, and so now all there is the Joker for Batman. At least that's the interpretation. But yes, he forgives Joe Chill, and Joe Chill dies having made amends. In the epilogue, referencing, again, the Killing Joke, allegedly, Joker's pregnant wife died in that story. Well, it turns out she didn't. Name change, moved to Alaska, had the child that she was pregnant with, raised in secrecy, and the reason why Batman has never given up Joker's true identity is that if he does, it could lead to the Joker finding his thought-dead wife and son and killing them, and they have lived in protection under Batman's auspices in Alaska for these many years. And that is how the story ends. Again, by itself, with a few changes, a few quibbles, it's a fine enough story. I enjoyed the read as I was reading it. Not what I wanted, not what I expected, not what I thought this could have been. I feel like the idea of Three Jokers, they left money on the table. I feel like they wrote it in Darkseid War as kind of a moment, and they never meant to go back to it. And then someone was like, but you did, and it's an awesome idea. You should write something. And this was like gun pointed to the head, an idea that they came up with and they ran with because they had to produce something. But this is not nearly as good as it could have been. There's so many things they could have done with this to make it a truly interesting read. And yet, where we landed was just another crazy Joker caper, with the best stuff being the interpersonal relationships of Batman, which is generally how this goes with Batman stories. Chris, your thoughts?
Well, this third issue was classic Jeff Johns thing, where he softens and humanizes a villain. We've never been thought to think anything nice about Joe Chill for, almost a century now. But That's all out the window because he's actually a pretty good guy. He was just misunderstood. He was probably abused by his parents too. I'm sure we'll probably find that out as well because that's one of the Jeff Johns chestnuts when he goes deep diving on a villain. Batman knowing the secret identity, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, he's Batman. I going back to when he sat in the Metron seat, right? The Mobius chair, like, why did he ask then? He already did the whole, the whatever the hell the first question in a lie detector is, the baseline with the first question he asked. I don't know why he asked what the Joker's real name was there if he knew it already, which makes me think that we were supposed to get a totally different story here, and too much time went by, and whatever there was originally planned, we just didn't get.
Let me jump on that. Hang on, let me jump on that. Do you think that this, much like many movies, was the victim of? In the movies, we say that it's the victim of studio notes. Do you? And I guess in comics it would be editorial notes. But
marketing
do you think
and
that,
editor, yeah.
That they went in, with this, like, we have this really juicy idea, and it got to editing, it got to the editor's chair, and the editor was like, no, fucking no. We're here to sell books. I don't know what you think you're doing.
Oh, you really think the editors have that kind of power anymore? No, not over Jeff Johns. No way.
So reframe this for me, because you have an idea here, and I want you to extrapolate on it. Mm-hmm. You're pitching that Jeff Johns came to DC Comics with the germ of an idea for Batman 3 Jokers, and somebody, and I want to know from your opinion, like, who that somebody might have been. You don't have to give me a name or anything, but like in general somebody said, nope, the fuck out of that. You got to do something else.
I think it was a very interesting little germ of an idea with the Darkseid War, and then when they had to fill some pages in DC Universe Rebirth with all the potential story spurs that were going to come out of it, of which very few actually paid off, the 3 Joker story was the Batman one. It was the one that we were going to be focusing on here, and I don't think that anyone necessarily told Jeff Johns no. I think they said, okay, you have an open ticket, come back whenever you can, and he took too damn long to do it. Mm-hmm. To the point where it's like, you know what? Tom King, I'm not a fan of Tom King, but I can't deny that he sold books. He was in the middle of a nearly 100-issue run. The last thing they would have wanted was a Jeff Johns story coming in to interrupt that. So, especially if it was going to be such an earth-shaking story as they made it seem like it was going to be in the Darkseid War and in Rebirth. So I'm thinking that time just got away. And by the time they had this ridiculous black label bullshit, it's like, well, we need stories for it. It's like, hey, Jeff had that story, and we'll put it in black label. So when people say, hey, is this in continuity? We'll say, and we'll just let you guys decide.
Kind of reminds me of how Superman Returns came to be, where they had an idea for an additional Superman movie, and it got rewritten and dropped, and new things came up. And like, if you ever read the wiki history of the history of Superman movies, the time in between the garbage Superman 4, the Quest for Peace, and Superman Returns, and then Superman Returns to Man of Steel, mm-hmm. There's these 2 big periods of them, because this is also where we almost got the Nicolas Cage Death of Superman movie, and it's like they reworked it, and again, projects got picked up and projects got dropped, and people came in and people left, and it was supposed to be directed by this person, and then that person leaves, and it's supposed to be directed by another person. By the time you finally get the principal photography for a Superman movie, it is nothing even close to what was in development, right? Sure. And you get. It's like, just fucking film something already. Give this a Superman movie, and you get Superman Returns, which was. Yeah. I've now, this will be the 3rd time I've said this at the very least, but Superman Returns is kind of the Batman 3 Jokers of the Superman movies. It was like, in isolation, it's fine. As part of a series of Superman movies, it's hot garbage.
And we also have Johns, who was the straw stirrer in the drink at DC for 15 years. Every single big event was coming out of Jeff Johns' word processor. Every momentum shift was coming from him. Every status quo shift was coming from him. And I think that's just what he does now. I don't want to say he's incapable of writing a monthly series. I think schedule-wise he's incapable of writing one, but tonally I couldn't say. But I think he's just so accustomed to these big, sweeping, jaw-dropping, a DC Universe Rebirth, a book that made me cry. Every time I read the damn thing, I cry because it's that powerful to me. Infinite Crisis, maddening, insane, totally undoes like the whole of my DC Comics fandom. But it was so huge and it was so well done that I had to respect it for that. Johns just writes big things, and so we have this, which is being touted as a big thing. We had Doomsday Clock, another huge thing. Unfortunately, he is unable to keep up with the schedule. I'm guessing he's a very busy man. He did retweet me one time, so he's not that busy. But but I'm thinking that this just got away. This was just it was sitting on the to-do pile for too long, and to the point where it's like, hey, we can do it now, but well, we've got these other Batman books going right now, and we have all this stuff invested. I mean, like I said, Tom King, not my cup of coffee, but he worked hard for 5 years on Batman, and you don't want to slip in the old guy just to knock you off the train tracks. If you have a plan, and Tom King did have a plan, where would you fit this story in? I can't think of a place you would. It probably doesn't help that we were in the middle of the Joker war in Batman when this came out. I haven't read that yet. It's sitting on the pile, but I don't know if it's. I doubt it references it.
It's on my to-do list for next year as for source material.
Okay.
FYI.
Okay. Well, I've got it, so you let me know. But I doubt that it I doubt that anything will reference this until the next time Jeff Johns does something, or the next time they do something that's touted as being big.
All right, Chris and I have been talking for a while now, Alexis, but you have the most important job right now. You get the final word. You get the last word on Batman 3 Jokers. You get to tell us, what did you think of the book? What did you think of this discussion? What do you think about life and love and liberty? Tell us, Alexis. What are your thoughts on God? Because I would really like to meet her.
You counting Blue Cause?
I still think you need to rethink your opinion of me and alligators.
Will you move on?
Actually, one of the things I really like about this may sound weird, but I love this idea in the very last few pages that it turns out that the Joker's wife and child are still alive. Because I love this spin that through his mind in the Killing Joke, he was downtrodden and he was just, so meager and didn't have any support. But through another lens, he was gaslighting his wife and was horribly abusive. And that's just very fascinating to me, the way one person can look at a situation and see it one way. You look at it through another and you see it a totally different way. I love that idea. And not to mention, I've read The Killing Joke so many times. I've got it upstairs on my shelf. And yeah, you take the dialogue he says and you put it with an air of anger instead of an anger or a sound of pity. And there's no doubt about it that it would come across as abusive. So I thought that was actually incredibly clever. Really like that. I did enjoy this book, but again, I'm really hoping that if there is a continuation, that we can actually get an explanation on the idea of how we got 3 Jokers. Because like I said before, I'm having trouble understanding the idea that the first Joker would be able to recreate 2 people in his own image that even Batman wouldn't be able to tell. Batman has been established as being such a great detective that he can remember, an identity based on how what a person's jaw feels like when he punches it. I mean, that's how good it is. And I'm like, if these were 2 So I'm saying, it's like, I'm sorry, there is no way that the Joker could create two perfectly flawless copies and Batman wouldn't be able to figure something is wrong.
All right. Well, thank you, Chris. Thank you, Alexis, for having a long discussion about this book. But as I've said before, the best books that we do on this show are the ones that generate the most discussion, good, bad, or indifferent. So, regardless of what I thought of the book, good, bad, or indifferent, I really enjoyed this discussion. I thought we had a really good show tonight. This was not the death of Hawkman. That is the new standard, Chris.
The second coming of that's the Mendoza line for this program.
Well, that's the thing. It's like I referenced Darkseid War when I want to reference something that was just
Awesome.
batty
Awesome.
and
Great.
crazy
Fantastic.
and confusing and ridiculous. My Death of Hawkman is what I reference now when it's like a story that is so simple it took us 20 minutes to talk about it. That whole show was, I think, 40 minutes, and 20 minutes of it is plugs. So, not the Death of Hawkman. That's my review on this. 2 hours to get to that point. Next week, it's our annual Christmas episode.
Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah. Destro City.
We're gonna load up the rocket ship with the rocket fuel, and the rocket ship with the rocket fuel, and other things with the rocket in it.
We're going to take the two pilots. I don't remember what he says after that.
Hogan.
Is it just me, or is it bizarre that we've been wanting 2020 to end so badly, and now it feels like these last 2 months have just completely zipped on by? Or is it just me?
No, I'm good with.
It's true.
I'm good with getting through this year and getting into next. Hey, a nurse in New York City got the COVID vaccine. It's fucking over, man. Pandemic's over. We can all go out and be around each other again.
First.
That's right. COVID vaccine.
Don't forget, I'm still supposed to meet you and your family at Disney World.
Yes, see, well, now, a nurse in New York City got the COVID vaccine, so come on down. And you can come on down anyway, because as I've said to everybody in our network chat and far and wide, Florida is where the COVID runs free. Come on down!
Yeah, the COVID the virus may run free, and so unfortunately does the soon-to-be former president.
So, on that note, myself and Christian will be together for our annual Christmas show. And as you heard, as he hummed the music, as we did the quotes, we are doing the Warrior Christmas special. The Warrior comic book was 4 issues plus 1. Grand total of 5 issues. It was a 4-issue series, and then they did a Christmas special. And Chris, what's so special previewing our show next week? What's so special about the Warrior Christmas special?
Well, if you thought Marville #3 had a lot of words in it, just get ready. No, there are no words in this. This is just pin-ups. And it's, I think we're going to have, this will be our fan fiction episode. It'll be a fanfic Christmas. And we will tell the story of the warrior.
I've seen the images from that, including one of BDSM Santa.
Bondage Santa.
Gagged. Yeah, oh my God.
I think there are 2 or 3 like that. Yeah.
Is not bonded Santa the best kind of Santa?
Mm-hmm.
How is it that you get a seizure from Infinite Crisis, but you don't get a seizure from that?
Because I'm a dirty pervert. What's wrong with you? How long have we been doing this show? All right. So speaking of dirty perverts, myself and Christian will be reviewing in graphic detail the Warrior Christmas special. Pour yourself some wine, put on our podcast, sit back and relax as we describe in vascular detail pictures of the Warrior and Santa.
Damn.
Oh, look at those legs on Chris Jericho. All right.
Unbelievable.
In the meantime, in between time, and then the following week, as we get past all of that, we're finally getting to see Wonder Woman. It comes out Christmas Day. So in celebration of that, we'll have Alexis back on to close out the year of Source Material Live. A year without Jesse Starcher. It makes me sad. But that's okay. Alexis and I will do Wonder Woman Come Back to Me. Come back to me, Steve Trevor. Don't you understand? You left me and I'm Wonder Woman all alone. So, and the cheetah's in there as well. So, we'll review that six-issue limited series this week on the Radulich Broadcasting Network. Bit of a schedule change because people don't know how to read schedules. Myself and Jesse Starcher will review on our heavy metal podcast, we'll review the new Public Enemy album, What You Gonna Do When the Grid Goes Down. What are you going to do when the grid goes down, Alexis? You better be ready. That's what you better do. And on Wednesday, myself and Ronnie Adams will review all 6 seasons and not a movie of Community. I like The Big Bang Theory. The rest of the world says, no, you're not allowed. You have to watch Community and Parks and Recs, and so I watched one of those. So we'll talk about it. And then finally, myself and Pat Mullen will look at the life and times of the real deal of Evander Holyfield and a little bit about Riddick Bowe and John Ruiz. So that's our podcast for this week. Last week, as I've been telling everybody, myself, Alexis Hejna, and Cole Marentet discussed a heavy tomb of importance. We discussed My Little Pony Transformers from IDW. And a fantastic time was had by all. My kids just love it. Myself and Chris Bailey reviewed AEW Winter is Coming. Myself and Chris Sheehan reviewed NXT TakeOver, where there was not a suicide pact, but a woman was hit in the back with a mallet and somehow managed to not die. Speaking of not dying, myself and Jesse Starcher reviewed Clutch, the Weathermaker Volume Series 1. And finally, the two Canadians and I reviewed The Crown Season 4. Princess Diana. All right, I've purred one too many times and long enough. Alexis Hejna, your plugs, madam.
All right. Honeysuckle Rose Creations, the intersection of geek and chic. We're still doing our big holiday charity drive. Every piece that you purchase from our store, that could be from either Etsy or handmade at Amazon, but every order that you place, we will be donating $5 to St. Jude's. This is going to go on until the end of Christmas Day. So if you're still looking for holiday gifts for the nerdy ones in your life, be sure to check out our shops. Just a quick heads up that, sorry, I twisted over my own tongue there. Sorry. That we do ship by the United States Post Office, and they have confirmed that if you want your orders guaranteed there by Christmas, you need to have them in the mail by December 18th. So if you're still hoping to get some shopping done, you got just a few days to do it. Otherwise, you get to explain to your friends and family why you slacked off. As always, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Under Duress Twitter. Honeysuckle Rose Creations, the intersection of geek and chic.
Chris Sheehan, explain in vascular detail your podcasts.
Oh, god damn, pal. You can hear me over at chrisandreggie.podbean.com. There are shows there. Well, I actually just broke 100 days in a row putting out new content audio-wise, which is something I didn't think I would do, but I wound up doing it. Now I'm afraid to stop because I have a streak going, and it's I'm really just a prisoner to my own vast creativity and just my obsessiveness. But the show that is most prolific over there is called X-Lapsed, where I'm looking at the current-day X-Men books as a lapsed X-fan who's been gone from the books for about 3 or 4 years now, which doesn't sound like a long time, but a lot of stuff happened that I missed and really need explained to me. So I'm doing my best. So got about 90 episodes of that up to this point. Every weekend I do some potpourri stuff here. Did From Claremont to Claremont on Saturdays, and Mr. Radulich was part of that a few weeks ago. And I'm doing a Phoenix Resurrects Lapsed spin-off on Sundays to get through the Return of Jean Grey miniseries that I missed out on, and trying to catch up on that as well. In the new year, I will have a few projects starting with Mr. Chris Bailey. We're doing our Quester Days Elf Quest podcast, as well as a special project that is like the worst kept secret that we have here. We've never actually said what it is, but everybody knows what it is. So you probably know if you know us, and if not, you probably don't care. I'm also going to be doing a Maze Agency program as well as continuing our Learn Me the Legion series, where I am taught about the Legion of Superheroes by a seasoned fan, Mr. Al Sedano. Also, daily posts on the blog, chrisisoninfiniteearths.com, and you can find me on Twitter at Ace Comics.
All right, folks, thank you for joining us on this extended episode of Source Material Live. Also, real quick, the Superblog team-up is this week. Myself, Chris Sheehan, and Jesse Starcher. Jesse Starcher put the love in on this one, so you better listen to it. It's the return of the gag reel. You don't get to hear me sing a Pansy Division Christmas song, which I'm sorely disappointed by, but apparently...
I'm disappointed, too.
Do you want me to sing it now? I will.
The moment has passed.
Yeah. The thrill is gone. The thrill is gone.
Next week. We're
yes.
in full Christmas mode with the mistletoe hanging and everything.
You know what? I might sing Pansy Division. I might sing Lumonte, Little Dominic the Italian Christmas Donkey. Anyway, before I get too sidetracked and we never end this podcast, Superblog team up December 16th. What if we lived in a world where the South won the Civil War and they were able to successfully secede from the Union? In that world existed a Captain Confederacy. 12-issue limited series came out in 1986, black and white. Myself, Chris Sheehan, and Jesse Starcher talked all about it. We had a very interesting discussion about Captain Confederacy and the South and secession
Not
and
judging
all
the
that.
book by the cover.
Not judging a book by the cover, yeah. So so when that pops, give that a listen. If you've never heard of Captain Confederacy before and you're like, what the hell? It's actually it's one of the better discussions we've had this year. It's definitely worth a listen. Yeah, it was really good. So thank you for joining us here on Source Material Live. For Alexis Hejna, for Chris Sheehan, I'm Mark Radulich. Be well, be safe, and behave.